Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever found yourself in a situation where your emotions were being tested, where your patience was on the verge of breaking, and the urge to react, perhaps in anger, was overwhelming? What if I told you that in that moment of turmoil, your silence could be more powerful than any outburst of frustration? What if in that very moment, silence held the key to breaking down barriers, restoring peace, and transforming a situation that anger never could? Think about it. How often have we been conditioned to believe that we need to speak out, to raise our voices, to fight for justice, and that only through aggression or words can we win? But what if the real victory lies in mastering the art of silence? In a world that is quick to react, it's the person who remains still, who remains. Today, I challenge you to reconsider the power of silence and its ability to break through the hardest of hearts in ways that anger can never accomplish. Silence is often misunderstood as passivity or weakness, something to be avoided or replaced with words and action. However, in reality, silence is a profound and active force that holds remarkable power. It is not merely the absence of sound, but rather a deliberate choice, a form of strength that can lead to deep understanding, transformation, and mastery over oneself. In a world where noise and chaos often dominate, the power of silence stands as a beacon of wisdom and control, waiting to be harnessed. When we choose silence, we are not surrendering our voice or power. We are strategically holding it. It is easy to get swept up in the noise of life, to react impulsively to external pressures, to feel as though we must respond to every challenge with words or action. But silence is a tool for discernment. It gives us the space to process, to understand the situation, and to decide whether a reaction is necessary. It forces us to confront our own emotions and motivations, allowing us to respond from a place of calm, rather than from the impulsive force of anger or frustration. One of the greatest gifts of silence is its ability to create an environment where clarity can emerge. Often when we are caught in the midst of a heated moment or chaotic situation, our thoughts become clouded and our responses become less about resolution and more about self-defense. Silence, however, gives us the room to breathe, to step back, and to gain perspective. It allows us to listen not only to the words being spoken by others, but also to the deeper messages that are being conveyed through body language, tone, and energy. In that stillness, we are able to see beyond the surface and gain insights that would have been missed in the rush to react. Silence reveals our emotional resilience. It is easy to be reactive, to shout, to argue, to make our point heard at all costs. But the true measure of strength lies in the ability to remain silent when it would be much easier to lash out. By choosing silence, we demonstrate a command over our emotions. We prove to ourselves and to others that we are not slaves to our impulses, but masters of our own state of being. This self-dictomy is not a sign of weakness. It is a manifestation of inner power. It is a silent declaration that we are not defined by the circumstances around us, but by our ability to rise above them. In the same vein, silence has the unique power to disrupt the flow of conflict. When faced with aggression or confrontation, the natural response for many is to retaliate in kind. However, this only fuels the fire and escalates the situation. Silence, on the other hand, can be disarming. It catches the aggressor off guard, forcing them to reassess their approach. The absence of a reaction can create a space for the other person to pause, reflect, and often reconsider their behavior. In this way, silence becomes a tool of peace, a way to neutralize conflict without the need for verbal confrontation. Additionally, silence fosters deeper connections. When we listen in silence, we are able to hear not just the words, but the emotions behind them. It allows us to be present, to show empathy, and to truly understand others. In relationships, whether personal or professional, silence can be more profound than any words we speak. It creates a safe space for others to express themselves, knowing they are being heard without judgment or interruption. In this way, silence becomes an instrument of trust and understanding, building bridges where words alone may fall short. Silence is an active force. It is not a passive retreat, but a deliberate choice to reclaim control, to gain clarity, and to transform situations. It is a form of strength, one that transcends the need for constant verbal expression. In a world that often values noise and rapid responses, silence stands as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to remain still and listen. Emotional control is one of the most essential skills a person can possess, and in many ways, it defines the quality of our relationships, decisions, and overall well-being. While anger is often seen as a forceful and valid emotion, silence is a more powerful response that shows not only mastery over our feelings, but also the wisdom to choose the most productive course of action. In a society where emotions frequently guide actions, the ability to control one's emotional state, particularly in the face of conflict, can dramatically alter the outcome of any situation. Anger, though a natural and often justified emotion, can cloud our judgment and lead us to act in ways that we later regret. When we allow anger to control us, it is easy to say things we don't mean, make decisions driven by impulse rather than reason, and hurt others unintentionally. Anger can be like a fire. It flares up quickly, spreads rapidly, and leaves destruction in its wake. Yet, while anger might bring a sense of temporary power or relief, it is often a destructive force that escalates situations rather than resolving them. It creates walls, deepens misunderstandings, and makes it harder to see the bigger picture. On the other hand, silence offers us an opportunity to gain emotional control and respond from a place of reflection rather than reaction. When we choose silence over anger, we are making a conscious decision to step back and gain control of our emotional state. Instead of allowing our feelings to dictate our behavior, we become the masters of our responses. Silence in the face of frustration or anger shows incredible strength because it reflects the ability to pause and evaluate the situation before acting. It is a commitment to not let immediate emotions dictate long-term consequences. One of the key aspects of emotional control through silence is that it provides a moment to gather our thoughts. In times of anger, the mind tends to race and clarity becomes elusive. We may find ourselves thinking more about how to win or prove our point rather than considering how to address the issue at hand. Silence allows us to slow down the moment, allowing the space for rational thought to return. In that pause, we can shift from reactionary thinking to reflective thinking, giving us the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Silence also allows us to distance ourselves from the intensity of the moment. When emotions are high, it is easy to become overwhelmed, losing sight of what is truly important. By choosing to remain silent, we momentarily detach from the emotional weight of the situation, allowing ourselves to process the underlying issue. In doing so, we avoid the traps of knee-jerk reactions and instead create the possibility for a response that is calm, thoughtful, and much more likely to lead to a peaceful resolution. Emotional control through silence is not about suppressing our emotions. It is about respecting them enough to give ourselves time to understand them. It is about acknowledging that emotions like anger are valid, but recognizing that we do not need to act on every impulse they generate. Instead of reacting automatically, silence offers the opportunity to make deliberate choices. It is a tool that, when practiced regularly, can strengthen our emotional intelligence and make us more adept at handling conflict with grace and maturity. Choosing silence when emotions are running high also allows us to create space for others to reflect on their own actions. When we react in anger, we are often focused on defending ourselves, but silence shifts the focus away from ourselves and onto the situation at hand. It allows the other person involved to feel the weight of their behavior and perhaps reconsider their approach. In a way, our silence becomes a mirror, inviting the other person to reflect on their own emotions and actions without feeling threatened or attacked. Emotional control is not about denying our feelings. It is about choosing how we express them. Silence empowers us to choose the best possible response, whether that means saying nothing at all or speaking in a way that is grounded in peace and understanding. When we practice emotional control through silence, we build stronger relationships, make wiser decisions, and become more aligned with our true values, ultimately leading to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Anger often feels like an immediate and valid response to frustration, hurt, or injustice. It is an emotional eruption that, when triggered, can seem like the only way to express our feelings, defend ourselves, or address a perceived wrong. However, the reality is that anger frequently escalates conflict rather than resolving it. It can cloud our judgment, hurt relationships, and contribute to a cycle of retaliation. In contrast, silence possesses a unique and powerful ability to break through the emotional fog of anger and bring clarity to a situation. When we choose silence, we step outside the cycle of reactive behavior and create an opportunity for true resolution. Anger, by its nature, tends to fuel further anger. When someone confronts us with aggression, criticism, or hostility, the instinctive response is often to fight back, to match their anger with our own. This tit-for-tat dynamic creates a feedback loop of escalating emotions, with both parties feeling increasingly justified in their anger. Each word or action builds on the previous one, making it harder to find common ground or reach a peaceful resolution. In this way, anger feeds conflict and can make a problem seem insurmountable. The more we engage in this emotional exchange, the more entrenched both sides become in their positions. Silence, however, breaks this cycle. When faced with anger, choosing not to react immediately allows us to pause and step back from the emotional intensity of the moment. Rather than responding in kind, silence creates a space for reflection and allows us to regain control of our emotions. In this moment of stillness, we are not adding fuel to the fire. We are neutralizing it. The person who is angry is left without a response, which forces them to reflect on their own behavior and reconsider their approach. Silence is an act of defiance against the escalation of conflict, signaling that we will not be drawn into an endless cycle of emotional reactivity. Beyond just halting the escalation of conflict, silence can also disarm the aggressor. Anger often seeks to provoke a reaction, whether it's to defend one's position or to challenge the other person. When we choose silence instead of engaging with the emotional charge, we take away the very fuel that keeps choose silence instead of engaging with the emotional charge. We take away the very fuel that keeps the anger alive. The absence of reaction forces the other person to confront the situation without the usual emotional rewards of a back and forth argument. In this silence, their anger begins to lose its power. Without the anticipated response, the aggressor's frustration will often turn inward, making them question their own actions and the impact they are having. Silence offers the possibility for introspection. When we are silent in the face of anger, we do not merely retreat into passivity. Instead, we make a deliberate choice to refrain from reacting until we have fully understood the situation. This pause creates room for deeper thinking, both for ourselves and for others involved. By not reacting immediately, we avoid the rash judgments and impulsive responses that often arise from anger. Instead, we can assess the situation more thoughtfully and decide the most constructive course of action. Silence allows us to gather the emotional clarity needed to move forward with wisdom and perspective. Choosing silence over anger also gives us the opportunity to control how we are perceived. Anger often clouds our ability to communicate effectively. When we respond with fury, our words are often lost in the intensity of our emotions, and the message we intend to convey gets muddled. It communicates a sense of control and emotional maturity, signaling that we are not reacting impulsively to external stimuli, but are instead approaching the situation with a clear mind and a thoughtful approach. Silence creates the potential for a deeper connection and understanding. In many instances, conflict arises from miscommunication or a failure to truly understand the other person's perspective. When we respond with anger, we are typically focused on asserting our own viewpoint rather than listening or seeking to understand the other party. Silence provides us with an opportunity to listen deeply to both the spoken and unspoken aspects of the situation. In doing so, we create the space for empathy and understanding to blossom, paving the way for meaningful dialogue and resolution. Silence is not about passive withdrawal or avoidance. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to step outside of the reactive emotional cycle that anger creates. By choosing silence, we break through the emotional barriers that conflict erects, allowing us to approach situations with clarity, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. Silence transforms us from participants in the drama of escalation into active agents of peace, resolution, and deeper understanding. In this way, silence becomes not only a tool for personal growth, but also a bridge to stronger, more harmonious relationships. In today's fast-paced, often chaotic world, Inner peace is one of the most sought after treasures, yet it remains elusive for many. The noise of the external world, whether it be the demands of work, the pressure of relationships, or the constant flow of information, can easily disrupt our emotional balance. When faced with these, but when we choose silence over anger or reactivity, we make a conscious decision to create space for inner peace. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is an intentional act of stillness that allows us to reclaim our emotional center and find calm in the midst of chaos. One of the most significant ways silence fosters inner peace is by providing us with a moment to reset. When life feels overwhelming and emotions run high, it can be easy to feel like we're losing control. In these moments, silence offers us an opportunity to breathe, to pause, and to step away from the emotional intensity of the situation. Instead of rushing to react or to fix the problem, silence invites us to simply be present with our feelings. It is in these quiet moments that we can reconnect with ourselves, with our sense of calm, and with the clarity that lies beneath the surface of our emotions. By choosing silence, we allow ourselves the time we need to regain perspective, to reframe our thoughts, and to approach the situation from a place of calm rather than chaos. Silence is also a powerful antidote to the stress and anxiety that often accompany conflict. When we are caught in the throes of an argument or confrontation, our bodies respond by releasing stress hormones like cortisol, which can cloud our judgment and exacerbate the situation. Silence, in contrast, has a calming effect on the nervous system. It lowers heart rates, reduces the release of stress hormones, and gives us the chance to ground ourselves. By choosing to remain silent, we choose peace over agitation, mindfulness over reactivity. The act of not speaking, of simply holding space for ourselves and others, creates a sanctuary where we can release tension and find the emotional equilibrium we need to respond thoughtfully. Silence is a direct reflection of emotional maturity. It takes courage and strength to remain silent when every fiber of your being is urging you to speak or react. Emotional maturity is the ability to regulate our emotions in a way that serves us and others. And silence is one of the most powerful tools for doing so. When we choose silence in the face of anger, frustration, or conflict, we are showing not only self-discipline, but also a deep respect for the power of our words. We recognize that what we say and how we say it can have a lasting impact on our relationships and the situation at hand. By remaining silent, we exercise control over our emotions, signaling to others that we are not governed by the storm inside of us, but are instead grounded in our peace. The pursuit of inner peace is not just about avoiding conflict or suppressing emotions. It is about learning to live harmoniously with the complexities of life. Silence gives us the space to process our emotions, to acknowledge our feelings, and to make conscious decisions about how we want to respond. It is an act of self-care that nurtures our emotional health and strengthens our capacity for resilience. When we are at peace with ourselves, we are better able to handle life's challenges with grace and poise. Silence, in this sense, is an essential practice for cultivating a life that is rooted in balance, serenity, and personal strength. Silence also offers us the opportunity to listen to ourselves and to others. In moments of stillness, we can tune into the voice within, the one that often gets drowned out by the noise of daily life. This inner voice is a powerful source of guidance, offering us wisdom and direction when we allow it the space to be heard. Additionally, silence allows us to listen to others with greater empathy and understanding. When we are silent, we are fully present, and we are able to listen without the need to interrupt or respond immediately. This kind of deep listening fosters stronger connections and promotes emotional intimacy in our relationships. The inner peace that silence brings is not just the absence of conflict or stress, but a deeper sense of alignment with our true selves. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing we have the power to choose how we respond to the world around us. In a world that often values noise and constant action, silence offers us the opportunity to reclaim our peace, to ground ourselves in our emotions, and to navigate life with a sense of calm purpose. Silence becomes the foundation for a more centered, balanced, and fulfilled life. One that is not reactive, but intentional and peaceful. By embracing silence, we choose peace, not just in the external world, but within ourselves. In the midst of conflict and emotional turmoil, silence has a unique and profound ability to transform situations and relationships. It is often seen as passive or disengaged behavior, but in reality, it is an active tool for fostering deeper understanding and emotional connection. In a world where quick reactions and instant responses are often valued, silence can be the most powerful choice we make. It allows us to step away from the noise of the world and truly listen, not just to the words being spoken, but to the emotions, intentions, and unspoken truths behind them. Silence opens the door to deeper listening, which in turn nurtures empathy and fosters stronger relationships. When we choose to be silent, we create space for others to express themselves freely. In many interactions, especially in times of conflict, the urge to respond or to defend ourselves can override our ability to truly hear what the other person is saying. We may be too focused on formulating our reply or justifying our position to genuinely listen. Silence, however, shifts the focus away from our own need to speak and places it squarely on the other person's need to be heard. This act of deep listening, where we suspend our judgments and expectations, demonstrates a profound respect for the other person's thoughts, feelings, and perspective. By remaining silent, we allow the other person to fully express themselves, which in turn creates a space for understanding, healing, and resolution. In relationships, whether personal or professional, the ability to listen deeply is often more valuable than the ability to speak. In fact, the most meaningful connections are often formed through moments of silence, where both parties are fully present with one another without the distraction of words. When we listen without interrupting, without rushing to fix or solve, we create an environment of trust and intimacy. The other person feels valued and understood, which strengthens the bond between us. Silence communicates that we are not simply waiting for our turn to speak, but that we are genuinely engaged in the conversation and are willing to hear and understand the other person's perspective. Silence allows us to process emotions and gain clarity before reacting. In the heat of the moment, especially when emotions are running high, it is easy to react impulsively, often in ways that we later regret. Silence provides the time and space to reflect on the situation, to consider the underlying emotions at play, and to decide how we want to respond. It allows us to move from a place of emotional reactivity to one of thoughtful consideration. By choosing silence, we create the opportunity to pause, regain control of our emotions, and ensure that our response is measured, thoughtful, and aligned with our values. This ability to step back and reflect before reacting is a powerful tool for resolving conflict and nurturing healthier, more productive relationships. Silence also holds the power to de-escalate tense or confrontational situations. When we are met with hostility or aggression, the instinctive response may be to defend ourselves or retaliate. However, engaging in a battle of words only fuels the conflict and makes resolution more difficult. Silence, on the other hand, can diffuse aggression by removing the emotional charge from the interaction. Darling, when we remain silent in the face of confrontation, we deny the other person the satisfaction of provoking us. This can cause them to pause, reflect on their behavior, and reconsider their approach. In this way, silence becomes a tool for peace, a way to interrupt the cycle of aggression and create a moment of reflection and potential change. Silence nurtures our own personal growth and emotional intelligence. By choosing silence, we take responsibility for our emotions and our reactions. It is an act of self-awareness and self-regulation, where we recognize that we have the power to control how we respond to the world around us. Instead of this ability to manage our emotions and reactions is a key component of emotional intelligence, which plays a crucial role in building strong, healthy relationships. Through the practice of silence, we develop greater emotional resilience and wisdom, which ultimately leads to more harmonious interactions and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. Silence is not a passive withdrawal, but an active tool for transformation. It is a vehicle for deeper listening, empathy, emotional control, and personal growth. By embracing silence, we create space for understanding, reflection, and meaningful connections. In a world that often values quick responses and constant activity, silence offers us the opportunity to step back, gain clarity, and engage with life in a more intentional, thoughtful, and compassionate way. Silence empowers us to break through the noise, nurture stronger relationships, and cultivate deeper inner peace. Silence is far more than mere quiet. It is a profound, intentional force that has the power to shape our lives and relationships in ways that anger and reactivity never could. Through silence, we gain emotional control, allowing us to break free from the cycle of escalating conflict and impulsive reactions. It provides us with the clarity to think deeply, to listen with empathy, and to respond with wisdom rather than emotion. Silence is a tool of peace, offering us the strength to pause in moments of tension, to reflect before reacting, and to nurture deeper connections with others. It is an act of self-discipline and emotional maturity that fosters inner peace and promotes understanding. When we choose silence over anger, we break down walls, disarm aggression, and create space for genuine resolution and growth. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is the strength to remain grounded and composed in the face of adversity. It is the foundation upon which we build meaningful relationships, cultivate emotional resilience, and navigate life with grace. By embracing the power of silence, we not only transform the way we engage with the world, but also create the opportunity for true peace, understanding, and personal growth. So the next time you are confronted with anger or conflict, remember that your silence can break barriers in ways your words never could. Let silence be your strength, your guide, and your path to a life of greater harmony and emotional freedom.